definitely think I've gotten like an incredibly amount of great experiences here. But looking at St. Olaf College as an institution and structurally, I have a lot of problems with it. Yeah, well, I should say I came from a suburb on the south side of Chicago, Harvey, Illinois. It's not particularly a well-off area. And I think my high school kind of culture reflected that when I got here. I think one time I remember mentioning the word ridicule, and people thought like, "Whoa, whoa!" And I was just like, "All right, I got to get out of here. Like this is dumb." To me, going home isn't really an option. There's something about the space that I really liked. It was kind of secluded, and may have been that time in my life where I just I wanted to get away. It wasn't like a big culture shock, but like sometimes the references and the jokes are just different, and you slowly adapt to it. And that was there were so many other conversations like that where like, oh my god, you don't know this? Because a lot of my friends are white, Sometimes these contextual references just went completely over my head. I've slowly built them up as I've gotten here, like slowly going out of my way to assimilate to the mainstream culture here at St. Olaf. When I was in high school, I was like considered like kind of like the white boy or whatever. I wasn't too assimilated in my culture back home, but I also wasn't assimilated into this other culture that I was into. Like I was like from this incredibly urban neighborhood, but I had like a weird fascination with like indie rock. When I got here, that all flipped, and like I felt really happy that I could talk to so many people about like the music that I like now. When I went to SSS Trio, it was a lot of the same students, a lot of the same people I went to school with, kind of that same mentality. Like the culture of it, I was very familiar with. And when I got to St. Olaf and started meeting people here, it was like definitely like a bit of a slight difference. But now it's so much more noticeable. There was the religious aspect of mainstream culture that kind of like I wasn't too familiar with. I was the only like Catholic kid or whatever, so I don't know if I would talk to him or if I could. But like I kept doing those kind of experiences where I didn't know anyone, and I remember I had a blast that year. Maybe if I was a bit more like introverted, if I had come from that background, I think I would have had a different experience here coming in. I can see how that can be intimidating for someone, so it kind of makes me a bit, it makes me a bit weary as to how comfortable people are here. And from what I know, some people are not too comfortable. And the culture of Minnesota and of St. Olaf sometimes really put me off. They say it like this: "No, I think that's kind of tricky, but I see what you're saying." And I'm just like, it's dumb. You fully disagree with it. Like, especially in my socioeconomic context, like knowing that someone's always a step ahead. I know, like I have to like go the step ahead to either match that person. So I've definitely seen a change in like the way I treat like my race and socioeconomic context. But I was able to speak up in class a lot more, and I didn't do that a lot in freshman year. I do understand that the experiences that I have are of relevance, and knowing that I have this academic background where I can give a proper argument for why I feel they're important, why I feel they apply to the classroom. Just a combination of those things have made me like a lot more knowledgeable of just being either a proper student, just a proper like, I guess person. My professor helped me because, he came out from the same background, and we were interested in like the same things. And to me, he was like this a big success role model. Like the fact that he was able to come out of a rough area and teach such an incredibly dense and very, very intellectual major, I just felt like, oh my god, like I could do that. My quote unquote racial awakening, and I got opened up to a lot of things that I didn't really like. Was either ignoring. I was definitely of the colorblind person that kind of just wanted to ignore a lot of structural things. But really, what it made me do is really appreciate like who I was, my background and stuff. And I had appreciated it before, but I appreciated it to a different extent. I knew, now knowing the structural consequences that either my group or other minorities had gone through, I I started to change up a lot of like the way I was thinking, especially because, you know, my parents came from Mexico, and they came here, and you know, their whole thing was like, you know, just getting a job and starting a family. And now I have this opportunity to go to school, and not only go to college, but also do something, you know, insane. You know, like I feel very privileged, but I also feel like this kind of weird burden that I feel like whatever I do has to be of great import. White people say weird stuff all the time. I'm not going to point out each and every aspect of it. I know that and sometimes they mean it in a negative way, and sometimes they mean it in a bad way. My whole point is that, are you going to come talk to me, or are you going to dismiss me as a Mexican American that is a stereotype or something? You know, that's where my issue comes in. You know, people like Tim Wise, you know, who's a very, very strong advocate of race, and he's a white person. You know, that's a pretty really strong use of privilege, and I'm pretty sure he's used this privilege in a way. Not everyone has to be a crazy white activist or just like an anti-racist activist, but just understanding that, you know, you have a bit more of leverage and a bit more access to resources that I might otherwise not have.